My iPhone 11 Pro is set to be delivered, and this is how I feel.
The hills are alive.
That's right, I'm prancing, I'm dancing, and I'm not afraid to admit my nips are at 3/4 mast and rising. Now, Apple knows that people like to buy iPhones because of the camera quality. It has some of the best camera quality ever, but this year, I think that we're receiving the largest update that we've ever received. And they kept pushing this fact all throughout the keynote. In fact, they even had a whole slide that said,
It has the highest quality video ever in a smartphone.
now they're always kind of saying stuff like that, but you start looking at some of the footage that we're seeing coming out now, and some of the footage from the keynote, some of the stuff that the iPhone is able to pull off. Now let's start with the marquee feature. This is Smart HDR, and it works in a really intelligent way. Normally HDR just grabs a bunch of images, smashes them all together, brings up the shadows, takes down the highlights, boom, here's your fake looking image. Smart HDR is interesting because they take a bunch of exposures before you even hit the shutter. And then when you hit the shutter, they grab the exposure that you want, and then a highlight exposure, and then a process called
Semantic rendering.
goes into full effect, baby. Semantic rendering, it is AI-powered photographic creation. The AI goes in and it looks at all the elements of all the pictures that you took. It grabs the best exposure of the trees, the skies, your face, the background, the shadows. And then this is where the magic happens.
This allows us to more intelligently detect subjects and relight them with detail.
The AI engine can actually tell what it's looking at, and it knows we need to bring up the brightness on the face, we need to sharpen the hair, we need to sharpen the facial hair, we need to maybe bring down the skies, maintain the details, denoise it, bring up the shadows on the trees. So unlike normal HDR that just smashes everything together, Apple's semantic rendering can go through and pick out exactly what artificial edits need to be made on each part of the image. Then it blends everything together and presents to you one beautifully created image. They are able to accomplish what normally would take a camera that costs, I don't know, $100,000 and emulates in a very convincing way through software what those large format sensors can do in a hardware way. Apple can do by just creating multiple images, blending them all together with smart software, and then creating a result that's convincingly like a camera that costs way more money than what is in the actual iPhone camera. A great example of this was the image that Apple presented on stage of a girl that was backlit. Normally you have to expose for the bright area or the dark area. So either you're gonna be overexposed on the sky, properly exposed on the face, dark on the face, underexposed on the sky. Apple gives you the best of both worlds. They take all these different images, blend them together through the semantic rendering, and you could see her face, you could see the highlights, they still have details behind her, and yet you could see her freckles, all the shadowy detail in the foreground, all the bright detail in the background. And then there's night mode.
Here's an image with night mode turned off. Here it is with night mode turned on.
Now, night mode exists on other cameras, but iJustine just did a great video illustrating why night mode on the iPhone 11, iPhone 11 Pro is so special. You can see it is able to pull details out of near blackness. And not only is it able to include details from really dark scenes, but it still looks good, it still looks natural. You can see in her example when she's taking a picture with the iPhone 11 and the Pixel 3a, the Pixel 3a, it looks like somebody puked on it. It's green and gross and tingy, whereas the iPhone image, it still looks natural, the color temperature is still beautiful. It's not just a technical feat that the iPhone pulls off, it still creates a beautiful image, whereas the Pixel 3a, yeah, it did it. But does it look good? No, doesn't look anything like this does. That's for sure. Another thing that absolutely wowed me, titillated me, was the example of the cars driving through the desert in the Apple keynote. This shot is difficult because you have a really brightly lit scene and then they're showing you a dark underbelly of the car. So you're trying to get details from the highlights, details from the lowlights at the same time. This is something that you take for granted if you don't know what's happening here. Bright scenes with shadows are generally where most cameras fail. They can't do bright and dark at the same time. They don't have the dynamic range, but Apple, through software, is able to take a video of the highlight stream, a video of the low light stream, blend those all together and give you the best of both worlds in a high dynamic range video. I was shocked. I was wowed. My nips are still sore from that little example. Now, it's also worth noting that this works on the front and the back cameras all the way up to 4K 60 frames per second. So you're getting that same beautiful dynamic range whether you're filming someone else or filming yourself. The next big feature that's really big, but you would take for granted if you didn't know was there, was what they call cinematic video stabilization. Stabilization isn't something that you notice when it works well. You only notice that it's not there when it's not working well. And again, we go back to that scene with the cars. The cars are driving and you can see they look completely smooth as the camera is following them, but what they revealed in the keynote is all those shots are handheld. Normally you would need some kind of expensive gimbal, some type of Hollywood level equipment to keep the camera from shaking all around as you're sitting there and just bouncing on me. But on the iPhone example, it's able to completely smooth out that footage while the person is holding it. That is an incredibly practical feature that you're gonna use all the time when you're taking videos. Maybe you're following someone, maybe you're walking around doing your selfies, hey y'all. But it's another quiet but impressive feat that other phone manufacturers just can't match. Now I know what you're saying, dude, the Note 10, it does image stabilization too. Yeah, and it's actually pretty good all the way up until 1080p, but it doesn't work in 4K and it degrades your image quality even at 1080p. The iPhone 11 doesn't degrade your image quality and it works all the way up to 4K 60 frames per second. I don't think any other phone matches that. Then you've got your 3 cameras on the back. And I know what you're thinking. You're like, dude, there's so many phones out there that have so many cameras. Why is this special in any way? Here's why. It's because Apple actually did the 3 cameras well. Those are 3 distinct cameras. They each have their own way of visualizing color. They each have their own apertures and shutters. Apple has gone through and matched all the cameras so they all have the same color perspective. And then when you're zooming in and out, magic is it does it seamlessly. You can't tell that you're moving from one camera to another because they're all communicating with each other. And they added that slide wheel in so you could just move in and out of your zoom as though you're using one camera, even though you're using 3. Those cameras are passing each other autofocus information, focus information, aperture, shutter information, tone mapping, color temperature. All of those things are continually being passed back and forth. They're each priming each other so that when you're moving in and out, all of those colors, all of those focuses, all of those exposures are all being matched perfectly from one camera to another. That's incredibly sophisticated technology, and it's one that's easy to take for granted until you know what's actually happening under the surface, and then it is wildly impressive. And of course, one of the things that blew me away more than anything else was when they brought Filmic Pro up on stage to give an example of how you could record from 2 of the cameras at once, and then even superimpose the front camera onto the forward-facing camera. If you're a blogger, this is the feature that you want to have. You can walk around with cinematic image stabilization, show what's on your front-facing camera, and superimpose your face in the corner so that they can see your reactions to things that you're doing. Maybe you're reacting to something. Maybe you're at your kid's sporting event and you want to film your face. Maybe you're the Papa Bear in your family. You're always taking videos of your kids, but you're never in any of the videos. Well, now your face is gonna be in the videos too, and everyone's gonna see just how good you look for a change. And now the last thing I wanna mention is the audio zoom feature. Now, normally when you're panning around, a phone will just record the ambient noise all around you, right? But the audio zoom feature will try to focus the microphones in on whatever you're recording. Now, there was a great video example of this made by iPhone Doe, where he shows the Note 10, I believe, and it has an audio zoom feature as well, but it doesn't really work that well. He's zooming in on his woman, he's next to a fountain, you can barely hear his lady, but the fountain sounds like it's right next to you.
Mostly friends so far, but also
on the iPhone, he does it again, and you can see as you zoom in on the video, the fountain noise is slowly faded away and the microphone focus is fully on the person in front of him. It's kind of audio magic.
I also want to know what it means to me, so I asked some various questions.
So now when you're zooming in on the iPhone, the sound, the microphone, it moves with your focus. The sound matches whatever your phone is on. That's another small, subtle feature that you're not gonna notice is there, but your videos are gonna look better and sound better because that feature is blended in there. All of this stuff works together, and all these features working together make the iPhone 11 Pro camera simply unbeatable. There are other manufacturers that might pretend they have some of these features, but they don't really work well. No one has the full selection. No one has the full pantheon of camera features that Apple has. No one is doing them better. That's the honest truth. You can argue with me, you can get mad at me, you can hit that thumbs down button, but sometimes the truth, it hurts. But hey, you might disagree, and if you do, I'm sure you're to let me know in the comments below. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up there. My name is Erfon Elijah, Gadget Hunter. I'm looking for the best tech, all the funnest toys. They're coming to this channel, and they're coming soon. You better subscribe. You better hit that like button. Do it right now. I'm tracking IP addresses for those who don't, and I might come pay you.